Te whare e tūnei, te marae e tā koto ana, tēnā koroa, ina mātai maha, haere, haere, haere. Nā tangera whenua o tēnei rohi o ngā motu, me whai mātou e te anga matatika mō te katoa. Tātou nā kānohi ore e hui mai ana, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Thank you all for being here in what I hope will be an incredibly interactive couple of days of conversation, although I have to say, as I heard just now, that there will be live polling. I hope that doesn't mean that I will be ranked on my speech as we go, particularly as the first speaker, but we mean it when we say it. We want this to be a place of dialogue, a place of conversation, and I feel honoured to be the first to kick off that discussion. Before I begin though, let me first please acknowledge some of the important people that we have in the room. And in doing so, just acknowledge them going forward for the rest of the couple of days, starting with Neil Holdham, the Mayor of New Plymouth. Neil and I have had some really important conversations over the last year, and I think off the back of those conversations, we will only be the stronger for it. And this particular summit is a result of one of those conversations. Neil, I want to acknowledge your advocacy and also the partnership I think that we've formed. I also want to acknowledge other local leaders, Ross Dunlop, the Mayor of South Taranaki, Neil Volquez, the Mayor of the Stratford District. I see in the room also the local Member of Parliament, Jonathan Young, government ministers who will join us across the course of the day, James Shaw, Grant Robertson, and of course the Honourable Megan Woods. And we are also lucky to have with us today international guests, the Prime Minister of the Cook Islands and the Deputy Prime Minister of Samoa. We welcome you here. And finally though, can I acknowledge all of you, everyone who has made the journey to be here today, be that a journey from overseas or from other parts of the country or even from just down the road. It is wonderful to have that participation so broadly drawn. In opening this conference, I've been asked to do the difficult job of setting the scene for the next 2 days of discussion and debate, to lay out why we are here and what we hope to achieve from this, the first ever national Just Transitions Conference. Put simply, we are here today because New Zealand's economy is entering one of the most dramatic eras of change in our country's history. Our global confrontation with climate change, which is the biggest challenge facing the international community and New Zealand, will require us to completely remake our economy over the next 30 years. And we've begun. Yesterday, we introduced the Zero Carbon Bill to Parliament. The critical goal that we must share is to limit global warming to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius over the next 30 years. And our legislation, reached through consensus, makes a start on this. Because the alternative is the catastrophic cost of doing nothing. We're planting 1 billion trees. We're setting up a $100 million green infrastructure fund to back clean energy projects. The government is moving to an EV fleet. We are investing a record $14 billion in public transport to particularly low emissions transport options like light rail and cycleways. And we're putting an annual $20 million investment into reducing agricultural emissions. How we power our economy, what products and services we are able to produce and sell, how we move around, how we work and how we pay our way in the world will all be transformed. Now this is a change on a scale and a pace that we simply have not seen before. So we've come together today to talk about how it is that we chart our way through this change and, importantly, how we make sure that no one is left behind. How we make sure that even as the world changes, our country remains the best place in the world to live, to work, to raise a family. I am personally determined that we get this right. Not to see this as a challenge to fear, but one to get ahead of, to secure a modern economy that truly works for all of us. And I'm determined for a reason. Now, I'm a child of the 80s. So as well as having seen my fair share of fluoro lycra in my time and Who's the Boss reruns, I've also seen what happens when we don't manage change well. When social and economic change is not only rapid, but sometimes unplanned and sometimes uncaring. I saw plenty of evidence of that growing up, even just for a few short years in the town of Murupara. People lost their jobs suddenly, and along with those jobs went the dignity and hope that they provided. Families were displaced, businesses were shuttered, communities were disrupted. I saw a government that headed into dramatic and jarring change. Now, I understand how things like that can happen. After all, in politics, the temptation has always been to do everything in 3-year cycles, not to think too far ahead, lest you have to make hard decisions, or simply because postponing problems is so much easier. To think of the future as someone else's problem. And I know that's not a mindset that's confined to politics. You know, we see it in companies from time to time that have traded on our environment whilst not sustaining it for those who follow. And people whose mindset too often is to get in, make money, get out with no thought about what comes after. But it doesn't have to be that way. We are committed to a better option. It is about lifting our eyes beyond the 3-year cycle and thinking for the next generation, not the next election. This is about tackling those long-term challenges that our country faces. And for that, we're asking for your help, because there is no greater long-term challenge than climate change. This is too big for any one government, or one industry, or one union, or one region to tackle alone. And that's what we mean when we talk about a just transition. All of us, government and business and workers and iwi, all coming together to chart a better path through the changes that are coming. Working together to make sure our people have dignity, our economy has a future, and our planet is protected. Thinking and acting and planning for the long term, not just for today. And I strongly believe that this is what New Zealanders want from us. Today, there is strong public support for measures to tackle climate change. I absolutely believe Kiwis understand that this is something we have to grapple with, and they want us to do it in a planned way that is pragmatic and that is well thought through. There is real agreement, both here and internationally, about our goals. That we must limit global warming to 1.5 degrees to prevent the catastrophic effects of climate change. Now, we are one of the few countries in the world who has written 1.5 degree goal into our legislation. Now, we've done that for a reason, because that's what it will take to save towns and cities and our Pacific neighbours. We know if the world warms more than 1.5 degrees, Tuvalu, Kiribati, the Marshall Islands will be at significant risk of devastating impacts. Now, this agreement on climate change action wasn't always so widespread. I still vividly remember during the 2008 election being asked at a public meeting about my views on climate change. Now, a wise candidate once told me later that if 50% of a public meeting isn't disagreeing with you at any one time, you're probably not saying anything. I did wonder, though, if 100% of the room booing me meant I was saying too much, especially because some of the people in the room included my grandmother. But I firmly believe things are different now. After all, 10 years later, here we are, not debating anymore if climate change is real, but instead discussing what we do about it. And I also believe that if we get this transition right, there's enormous opportunities that we can grab. A study by Westpac, for example, found that transitioning to a low-carbon economy could create up to $30 billion in benefits for our country. A report by Transpower showed that moving towards renewable energy would mean lower power costs for consumers and businesses. Groups like Pure Advantage and Burl have shown that tens of thousands of new jobs could be created by investment in clean energy. If we get our planning right, all of these benefits are within our grasp. So that is what the next 2 days are about. We'll hear from thinkers, leaders, entrepreneurs, workers, and just the odd politician, about the transition that is coming and how we can work together to make sure it's fair and just. That everyone gets a seat at the table and a say about how we go about it. Now, the decision, though, to hold this conference here in Taranaki was made because right here in this region, planning for the transition to a low-carbon economy is already underway. For decades, Taranaki has been the leading energy-producing region of New Zealand. The local oil and gas industry has provided thousands of good jobs with good wages, and other businesses have sprung up to support that industry. But with the world moving away from fossil fuels, that won't be sustainable in the decades to come. With the World Bank ceasing lending on fossil fuels, with investment globally in renewable energy now outstripping fossil fuels, and with institutions like the Bank of England warning of the danger of stranded assets, the world is moving. Now, we see that clearly, and continuing to put too many of any region's economic eggs in any one basket is a risky strategy. Continuing to rely in the future on fuels that pump more and more carbon into the air as the rest of the world seeks lower emissions would only mean a sharp, disruptive economic change in the future unless we plan for that change. Now, local people know this and have already begun planning for the change through work like Make Way for Taranaki, the development plan about diversifying Taranaki's economy. Now, that plan showed that if we committed to a long-term managed transition towards clean energy and towards other regional strengths like tourism and innovative agriculture, there would be real benefits for Taranaki. And as a government, we totally agree with you. That's why last year we did announce that we would end the issuing of new offshore oil and gas permits. Now, this was a decision about transitioning, with existing permits protected and onshore permits continuing. Now, I acknowledge that there will be people for whom that decision was and still is a challenge. But as we've said many times, this wasn't about sudden change. Thousands of square kilometres of existing acreage continue to be permitted for exploration. We see a role for gas in our economy for decades to come. And since our decision, we've seen there's still a strong medium-term picture for the industry in the region. Just this year, OMV announced another $500 million of investment. In fact, I think it's fair to say that, to paraphrase probably a sadly famous New Zealand saying, this change isn't happening overnight, but it is happening. And with that transition underway, we are committed to working with Taranaki every step of the way because we have a responsibility to. We've established the Just Transitions Unit to work alongside the region on the way forward, and it's doing really practical work. Local leaders, you've done incredible work already, truly world-leading in my opinion, coming together to chart a long-term future for the economy and people of this region. Now, we'll see the results of that work, the Taranaki 2050 roadmap, unveiled later today. But what I find inspiring about that work is how it's brought people from every part of the community together, given them a say, taken on board their expertise and advice, and put that thinking into a unified plan for the region's future. And what that work makes clear is that people in Taranaki want to be leaders in the energy transition. Now, for decades, Taranaki has been the leading energy-producing region in the country. Now, in the 21st century, local people know that their region can be a leader in clean energy as well. Businesses and workers already have the skills, the experience, and the international links to support new developments in clean energy technology and infrastructure. People here know that clean energy in the decades to come will be able to support good jobs and high wages in the same way that the oil and gas industry has in the past. And government, businesses and communities around the world are taking action to address climate change challenges, and we know the global energy system must make fundamental changes too. Here in New Zealand, our Productivity Commission found that there is no one hub that is supporting and directing the development of new energy forms in the country. Now, that Productivity Commission had argued that one was badly needed. In our government, we couldn't agree more. And so that is why we are committed to supporting such ambition. So, today, I'm announcing that the government, as part of the Wellbeing Budget 2019, will set up a new clean energy centre here in Taranaki to help lead New Zealand's transition to a low-carbon future. The National New Energy Development Centre will help create new businesses and job opportunities in Taranaki, while helping New Zealand move towards clean, affordable, renewable energy and away from fossil fuels. The centre will lead development of new clean energy technologies and work with businesses to position their innovation into commercial opportunities and new ventures, creating high-paying local jobs. We'll invest $27 million to establish this centre and cover its running costs. It will look at the full range of emerging new energy options, such as offshore wind, solar batteries, hydrogen, and new forms of energy storage. There's already strong demand for this centre in New Zealand. It fills a need. While basing the centre in Taranaki to capitalise on this region's talent and other assets, the centre will serve as a national energy system integrator and work across multiple organisations, agencies and locations. It will be a focal point for government, the research sector and the private sector, and it will draw on the best ideas and technology developed here and abroad. It will therefore help us to generate more new energy innovation at faster rates and at lower cost and risk to industry innovators. Ultimately, the centre will help us deliver secure, affordable, sustainable energy for homes, communities and industries, and it will improve our capacity to deliver on national and global emissions targets. Now, I know that this centre will be established on a strong foundation with pledges of collaboration and support already existing from the energy sector, from research organisations and supply chain businesses, both local to Taranaki and beyond. In fact, many of you will already be in the room today. I expect you're probably the ones that clapped. Thank you. I'm excited to work together, and I'm already encouraged by the support for this project. Alongside this, we will invest $20 million over 4 years to establish a new science research fund for cutting-edge energy technology so that we can look into the likes of superconductors, nanotechnologies, inductive power, and photovoltaics. Investing in cutting-edge science that could have global application is one of the best ways a country like New Zealand can contribute to the battle against climate change. Helping to commercialise new energy and investing in early-stage research, they go hand in hand. Now, New Zealand currently has pockets of world-class capability in niche areas of advanced energy research. These types of technologies have the potential to radically transform energy landscapes, leading to step change in efficiency, enabling greater use of renewable energy in transportation, creating business opportunities that will attract investment, create jobs, and help us be part of the expert solutions that the globe needs. I'm already so encouraged by what is happening here in Taranaki, but I'm also hugely optimistic about what we can do together as a nation as we confront climate change. Now is the time for a truly just transition. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.